she's talking about living in debris and that kind of thing. And I live in an old house, and so right away that resonated with me. And then another thing that came to mind too was I'm kind of into imperfection. So I'm oftentimes ill at ease if I'm in a perfect situation. Just when I was reading about the imperfection and, this living in derelict kind of thing, I thought, oh, that's the house I'm living in. And yet it's got creaks and it's got leaks and it's got squirrels and it's got stuff, and yet it's got so much heart. And, people come in and they feel they love it. My partner is an artist, and he's kind of the same mind, imperfection. And even though, his mother and sister can't stand the place, everybody else that comes just loves it and feels comfortable and feels at home. And so that's kind of a reinforcement that imperfection is kind of a good thing. I think it's something I've thought about more in, the last maybe 20 years. I do remember one time my son was, he was a goalie, and he was doing very well. And he was very stressed because he'd had a few games where he no goals came in. So this one day he didn't want to go. And it was because he was worried that would break. And so that kind of made me think, what is the worst that can happen? A goal comes in, so what? It's just a goal. You're still going to have a roof over your head. You're still going to have home. You're still going to have all of those other things. And I found as soon as a goal went in, he was relaxed. So, but yeah, imperfection is just, perfection is such a stress, an unnecessary stress. I lived with, my husband was quite anal about things, and I'm a bit more chaotic, and sometimes he'd come home and I'd be in the middle of a lot of different things like cooking and baking and stuff strewn out, and I'm really good at cleaning up after myself, but that really threw him off. And one time he even said, oh, this is grounds for divorce, and I just sort of thought, wow. And I just sort of think, that's just, I don't know, it's just silly. It's just silly, and that's just not me. And it just, like I say, it just really relaxes me more. And I paint, I write, I've been doing stitching. Whenever, even working in a garden, I don't want it perfect. I don't want it perfect. And I am rough. I started quilting lot later than a lot of my friends did, and they went out to stores and bought beautiful fabric and everything. I wanted to quilt, but I wanted to use recycled fabric, and I never really had even proper training in sewing, and I wanted to make them, and I made them all. I've made 5. I made them all out of love, and they're full of flaws. And I don't care. I don't care. And comparison is something that I'm just not interested in too. So, yeah. Well, I've been gardening, oh gosh, a lot through my adult lives. When we had a home and a garden, I would get into it. Of course, my ex was more into perfection and always sort of wanting to buy new plants, and my feeling is, why don't we just weed and trim and tidy up what we have? And the art is something I never really got into till I don't know, maybe was 40 or something. And I just never even thought that it was something that I would do or enjoy. But yeah, it's something that, yeah, both that I've taken up. Well, I gardened as a child. I lived on a farm, so the gardening is kind of an ongoing thing. Well, it's real. I just think, I mean, me too. Like, I mean, I'm imperfect. Like, I mean, now I have marked issues with my skin, and my sister-in-law wanted me to start wearing a makeup to cover it up, and I just sort of think, I'm too lazy. Like, and this is me. Like, my teeth aren't straight, and they're starting to yellow, and I've got dirt in my fingernails today. But I actually feel that if you can be imperfect, it relaxes people around you. And whereas if I was prim and proper and everything, I don't think people might feel quite as comfortable being around me. Very, very important. Very important. Yeah, when I used to work in the school system, I would always pay attention to a new person who walked in the school, and I would introduce myself and just ask questions and make sure they knew what they were doing. And I just thought that's something you did, but I sort of got from those type of people later that they didn't have it. Like, other people just, and I mean, certainly I felt that too when I've gone into a school. You don't always, you just kind of get ignored, or you're in the way or something. I think making people feel comfortable, making people feel they belong, it's really, really important. And I do that in the garden too, the community garden that I'm in. I've been in it for a few years, and when new people show up, I'm always really quick to, we're in little groups, little pods, but I worked with a man today who's here, new from Korea, and right away I get to talk to him, and I got him, I passed on some information that he could join the men's shed, and I think it's really important that people feel comfortable and that they belong. A place where you feel welcome, that you belong, that your contributions are important, that there's no levels, that everyone's on the same level. I really feel that when you can feel part of a community, your everything is better. If you are isolated, you're alone, your self-esteem goes down. I think for people to feel like they belong in a community is ideal. It doesn't always happen, but it is. And not everyone wants to be in community too, but it is, I think it's really, it enhances your life in such a big way. I don't really care how I'm perceived. And that's probably because, I'm at an age and stage in my life, like when I was younger, it was really important to me to be liked, to fit in, all of that kind of thing. When you reach a certain stage in your life, those things aren't so important. Like I've had my fair share of challenges, and I've done a lot of internal work. But I'm at a point where, like, of course being kind and all of those things is important, but you know, I heard one time, other people's opinions of me are not my business. But, you know, there was about how does society perceive, you know, older women. And I sort of thought, well, actually, I think a lot of times it's kind of like a blur. Like it's just all these, they're all older women are painted with the same brush until you get to know them. But that, I think that could be a common perception. I'm fortunate that I have been involved with many different, I mean, certainly with projects I've dealt with Keiko's group. I've always, you know, I'm often connecting with younger people. So, you know, I think once you have a conversation and once you get to know, people get to know you, it's not like, oh, she's just an old woman. It's like that's Susan and blah blah blah. But yeah, I think there is, and also like I was thinking about on the bus. I ride transit quite a bit, and I'm strong. I'm so fortunate. I don't have any health issues, and so I don't need a seat. Sometimes people will get up and give me a seat, and I think that's really sweet. But it's quite amazing the number of people that don't. They are so caught up in what's on their phone, or they're sleeping. And it's just like a sense of entitlement. And, you know, it doesn't really affect me because I don't, you know, I'm happy to stand. But I find it interesting that there isn't that. And yet there are people like that will, you know, they'll be like 6 feet away and they'll see me and they'll get up. So there are pockets of people that are really quite sort of considerate. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the home. Maybe the home. Like I think for families where mom and dad do everything and children are catered to. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, it could be a societal. My health issues are good. I gained extra weight, but I'm fine with that because I just don't have aches and pains. If I have a little issue with my knee, it's just a reminder, you have to do your exercises. So fortunately, I'm there. However, down the line, things will be different. One thing I was writing was like I've lost both of my adult children, and I'm, you know, I've come to terms with that. I'm accepting of it. However, you know, when I'm older, they won't be there to support me. So I had to go and redo my will, and I've got a friend and a niece who will be my power of attorney and executor and that kind of thing. So you know that's fine. And I mean I'm willing to just go into a home whenever. So that's one thing. Another thing is I do not own my home. I have owned my home, but because of, you know, situation in my end of marriage, I don't. And so when I'm living with my common law partner, when if he dies ahead of me, I always sort of think, I might be back renting again, and that could be a concern. So that's one thing. I'm finding right now I'm helping a lot of my friends and even my daughter-in-law, who's much younger, with health issues like taking to appointments and just checking in on them. So I think I'm kind of, and even my brother in Fort McMurray, he's got some serious issues with his family. So I'm just concerned, and I'm often helping them in different ways. So yeah, but I mean, at this stage, I don't have health issues. When I do have health issues, that will be a challenge. Yeah, it does. I mean, sort of, yeah, because, but at the same time, I mean, it's a show of strength to ask for help. And so I know that there's help out there. So, yeah. Yes, and yet I think there's a need for a lot more. My partner is really involved with the seniors advisory for the city of Vancouver, and so he lets me know about a lot of the issues that need to be addressed more. And so fortunately there is those kind of groups working for a better tomorrow for seniors. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, if there are women involved in these groups, yes. But how many are? I mean, how many are sort of going beyond their little meets with their friends, or I mean, I think there is a lot. There is a lot of wisdom out there that hasn't been harvested. Like they're older women. Like they're just older women. They're not Betty and Pearl and who does this and who does, without getting to know them, it's just one slap of paint for everyone. Well, like I say, I'm really involved with many different aspects of life right now where I am connecting with young people. So I'm fortunate. I'm really fortunate that I've had all of these opportunities, and I mean, I'm just as happy to see a young person as to see someone my age, and I feel that I get the same back from a lot of the youth in those groups. Yeah, but like I say, I feel very fortunate that, and I have interest. I still have lots of interest to have those connections. But for someone who doesn't have the opportunities, I don't think it would be the same. I mean, when I was raising a family and working, it wasn't, it just wasn't an issue. But now I'm on my own and I'm retired. I'm just really grateful for all of the different avenues that I've been able to explore and participate in. With the First Nations, elders are revered. And I think a lot of different cultures in the world that it's the case. I wouldn't say it's the same with North America. But I mean, North America is comprised of, I mean, especially where we live in Vancouver, it's we're a melting pot. We have lots of different cultures, but yeah, probably less so with just the traditional North American people. I would say it's just something that's the way it's been. But I mean, older people need more attention. And I mean, some families will, you know, have the grandmother move into their home, and that would be rich. But sometimes people don't have room, or they don't get along, or they, I mean, there's a lot of give and take with living with family. My mother-in-law is 100 years old, and her daughter lives with her. She's moved from Montreal to live with her, and it's a really huge sacrifice for the daughter. And the daughter's 80. She's wearing down now. So my mother-in-law has to go into a home for 2 months and maybe longer, and she doesn't want to do that. Like, she's going to do it. She doesn't have a choice. I did look after her last year for 3 months, and you know, I'm not sorry I did it, but it took an awful lot out of me, and I can't do that anymore. So yeah, I don't know. It's a commitment. I mean, if you have a, you know, if you have a family and you have the room, and you don't need added, I mean, even if you had them in your home and you had added caregivers come in, that would be an option. Ideally, better at home. Well, my mother died when she was 70, so I never had the opportunity to care for her as a senior. So I sort of felt like this is my chance, and I have done lots and lots of things with her in the past, and also I really felt like, you know, because my partner's sister was with her all the time, the least we could do is just step in. And I was, you know, I was just moving, and I didn't have a lot of things on my calendar yet, so I thought I could do it. And he is very busy, and he helped too. But there was similarities. I think I needed, because I had just moved, and you know, I wasn't that long ago that I just lost my children, and even though she's very capable, and it was quite a stretch for me. Well, I mean, I think the ideal situation would be to be in a home, be in your home or in your family's home, aging in place, ideally. And even, but I mean, it can be, if for instance, I am aging and I need extra help, it's often more expensive to have someone in there 24/7 than for me to go to a home. It's just the way it is. And I think actually, I mean, I noticed with my mother-in-law, being in, like, it's one thing to be with me or her daughter, but to bring someone from a different culture in, I think it would be kind of boring, and of course more expensive too, but just boring. Whereas in her home, the home that she moved to, there was always things going on, and there was just lots of different activities, and meals were always, you know, blessed, lots of socialization, and she seemed to strive in there. And we'd go over there, and she'd always be dressed up like she was in a resort. So I thought that was good.
Is it independent, what do you call it, care home? Not the care home, but we're talking about the home.
She was in a senior's home where she was she had her own room and she'd come for meals. She didn't need a lot of personal care.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, down the line, she was in a private. I would be happy to be in a public place, which would be less expensive. You hear stories, but I just sort of think the world isn't perfect, and I'm sort of accepting that that's where I'll be one day, and I don't expect someone to come and care for me, and I think I'll be okay there. And also, I mean, I don't really want to suffer, and so I'm kind of the belief that if I were to be in a lot of pain and suffering, provided I have my mental facilities, I would opt for MAID, medical assistance in dying, and that would be an option I would definitely consider. I'm not anywhere near that now, but I did have severe pain one time, and I kind of know what it's like. It wasn't so bad that I was kind of wanting to end my life, but I have a bit of a understanding now about what real pain is like. And the other thing too is, well, actually the one thing too one thing that came out of the questions was something that I find helps me every day with everything that has gone on and things that happen in the future: gratitude. Gratitude is the most powerful thing that I just can't believe it. I mean, I write, and lots of times if I'm struggling with something, I write, and I'm usually able to get clarity. So writing is a wonderful tool for me. And often I go to gratitude. After I've figured out, I go to gratitude. And when you start, you can't stop. You just, I mean, sometimes you're in not a good place and it's like hard to come up with things. But once you get started, you can't stop. Because, I mean, today we live in a safe country. We have beauty, we have water, we have food, you just start and it just goes on and on and on. So gratitude for me is just very, very powerful. Well, I think having events like events where there's lots of interaction for the two or three or four different generations to be together. Like actually, we're friends. I have a little trailer up at Gibson's, and we have a lot of different events there. But I just said to my friend the other day, we should have I had a fire on the weekend. I don't even know if you can have a fire, but I did. And I said to my friend, we should have a wiener roast. I mean, it's something so simple, and yet it's an event, and it's just magic. And so she said, yes, we need to do that, and intergenerational, like children, seniors. The one thing she wants more of is young people. You want to go to a wiener roast? Yeah, so I think events like that. I mean, bring back the whole family reunions, and times when different generations can be together. It's just rich. And storytelling is just, and that's one thing. I mean, everybody has stories to tell, everybody. It's amazing though when seniors start telling stories, because And they're just, and they need to be told. They need to be documented. And because maybe teenagers are too busy today to be concerned, because they just don't think about the future when their grandfather will be gone. But one day they're going to think, what, what were those blah, blah, blah kind of thing. It's just, storytelling is just so rich. It's just so, the storyteller, it's such a gift for them. But to be able to sit and listen, and if you have it documented, to be able to listen at another time or read at another time. Very, very rich. I've already written one book, and I write stories all the time. I write stories about my two sons that are gone to keep their memory alive. I write stories about growing up on a farm and sort of all the freedom I felt with that. I write stories, I think of challenges that I had in my marriage, because that was part of my life. Stories for when I've been on a trip. Or, it's interesting. When you start sharing stories, it's amazing how there's such commonalities. Like, for instance, my daughter-in-law was telling me the other day about a sofa she was going to, practically give away, but it was one that my son had bought, but she couldn't take it to her new apartment. So she had it up for sale, and a guy came over, and she said, yeah, he wanted to sit in the chair for the longest time and just test it. And then she said, and his wife died in the sofa they had. And then she's telling me different things. And then she said, yeah, he has a glass eye, and his name's Bob. And I said, I know him. And so when you start sharing stories, there's so many places for connection. And if she said, oh yeah, a guy came and he took it for he got it for $200 and blah blah blah, but she told me more. And she's told me a lot of stories of my son, who she lived with for 10 or 12 years. And she's told me stories that I didn't know about him. And storytelling is just, like I say, a very beautiful connector. I've started writing stories about my kids, memories of, different things that we did or about them. And I'm just doing that randomly. And I'm actually, instead of publishing it, I'm just, when I published the other one, it was one copy. Yeah. It's just for me. But the one for my kids, I just randomly write stories. I print them, and I just glue them into a recycled book, and I'll pull out pictures to go with it. It's just for me. But it's a really wonderful way of healing and sort of getting a better perspective on my life and gratitude, all the things that I'm grateful for. Something that is real, told from the heart, honest. Our friend Daniel, he's First Nations, and we would be in the sweat lodge, and he'd come up with stories like he talked about this Johnny Moses guy who was young, and he did this and he did that, and I got to meet him not that long ago. I guess just stories that are very unique, but authentic, real, from the heart. Well, I mean, there's certain places that I want to continue to travel to, and I want to be healthy. I want to have my health as long as possible. I want to continue to have good connections with people. I have some friends who say, no, I don't need any more friends, and I don't feel that at all. I've always got room for new people in my life. I would say probably travel is one of the biggest things.
Thank you very much for giving us the time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you.